So Wontumi illegal mining case and matters arising. Gossip Politics TV. So unsubscribe here, subscribe and hit it on the notification bells and any update be ever dropping on. Once to me. Akabichama Wontumi finally. What PM our High Court akwa open the defense na the witness or babe witness in favor of Chairman Wontumi. Abusuya say atro and obaye say obabitra misleading and obaye say obabe misleading court. Now we and a High Court judges no abusuya omo ma Wontumi witness no omo ma na so ayehye na ye bisa no say yeah, na as a Wontumi witness no or to papa so onim ne nsema a okeka no consistency nim ne nsemo nsisi so na we na deputy attorney general osori gina ho and I was no wasema a okan de ene o document a de buy kra no nyoma bi entally wom abusua intimacy a Chairman Wontumi ne witness or babe witness in favor of him no abusua atro a odi wo document and as ogina daka ne ntro a o try no mislead and or mislead court ni na judges no ene ehse deputy attorney general omo action say papa no entro no oba say oba bidi and as oba bitwa de ama Wontumi na adwempa omo de kopie mo court no abusua anye yi mo me enko na ye konkoti ensema ekọ so unsubscribe ya subscribe na hit on the notification bell and any update be able dropping on once a bit to me akabi Gossip Politics TV so better myself.
Now, drama unfolded at the High Court when the first defense witness mounted the witness box to testify in favor of former NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Caught&Xp0sè, known popularly as Chairman Wontumi. Wisdom Edem Gumashi, a mining engineer by profession, had to take back several details in a sworn statement after the court admitted it into evidence. Lord Iduasare reports.
During cross-examination by Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Caught&Xp0sè, it emerged that the witness's academic qualifications and educational history were contradictory. For example, when asked about his age, Edem Gumashi told the court that he was born in April 1993. His witness statement cited 1998 as the year he obtained his first degree. The Deputy Attorney General, bemused by the development, again pointed to another inconsistency in which the witness statement averred that the mining engineer obtained his master's degree from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, but insisted that the degrees were actually awarded by the University of Mines and Technology and the University of Ghana. When questioned about the inconsistencies, Edem Gumashi admitted the errors, but maintained that they were the results of mistakes and typographical omissions in the statement. Presiding Judge Audrey Kokuvite directed the witness to make the corrections so the court could update the records. Proceeding with his testimony, the mining engineer indicated that verbal permission cannot amount to the assignment of mineral rights under Ghana's mining laws. Citing the Mining Act 703, Wontumi's first witness held that assignment of a mineral right, among other things, involves a documented written approval from the lands minister, which he maintained was missing after reviewing the charge sheet, facts of the case, and the ruling of the High Court. Gumashi further explained that permitting the individual to do a reclamation exercise on the mining concession as was done by Wontumi did not constitute a transfer or assignment of Akonta Mining's lease. But Deputy Attorney General Caught&Xp0sè suggested to the witness that he had no expertise in law, noting that his interpretation and expert opinion on the matter were not properly grounded. Andy Apiakubi, lead counsel for Chairman Wontumi, sought to bring clarity on the issues of inconsistencies in the witness statement.
Our secretariat engages in a lot of typing of witness statements. I suspect that in the course of the typing, the imported dates of the previous witnesses into the witness statement. So these were just typos, and they are not consequential to the subject matter.
Chairman Wontumi and his company, Akonta Mining, have been charged with assigning mineral rights without authorization and facilitating illegal mining at Samra Boy in the Western region. They have pleaded not guilty and are on bail. A third accused person remains at large. Lord Iduasare, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, a series of high-profile arrests linked to millions in dollar scams has brought Ghana right into the center of conversation again over the threat of cybercrime and romance scam. The latest, the arrest of 3 Ghanaians by the U.S. Department of Justice for romance scam, wire fraud, and other cyber-related crimes. According to court documents filed in the U.S., 2 Ghanaian brothers, Jamal Abubakari, aka Arrangement, and Kamal Abubakari, known as Lancaster, both aged 22, and one Amada Joy Opoku Boachi, 53, used fake identities to convince victims to part ways with large sums of money. The latest arrest brings to a total of 16 Ghanaian arrests in conjunction with authorities, prompting fears the development could result in the country being slapped with certain restrictions. But who are these individuals, and what is the scale of the problem being unraveled by these arrests? And we'll get into all of that shortly. But I want to take you over right now to Zoom and engage the communications director of the Cyber Security Authority, is also in charge of strategy and other related matters. There, Benjamin Avonyoche has joined us via Zoom this afternoon in relation to these developments. Mr. Avonyoche, I appreciate you joining us this afternoon, but the scale in which we're seeing these arrests in the last 2 years, what are we to point to? A case of growing numbers of persons engaged in this, or it is a case of state security agencies clamping down on them?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. I think that these issues did not start just recently. Some of the investigation go far back as 2019. Some of them are far back as even 2017, 2018, some 2020. So what is actually currently happening now, for which the public is hearing about, is because there's been intensified collaboration and clamp down on these individuals. It is in that respect that some of these issues are now coming to the fore. But if you look at the period within which this investigation has been ongoing, some have been as long as 4 or 5 years ago, where discussions concerning these investigations have been ongoing, and collaboration between the state agencies and our international partners have been ongoing. So the issues are not recent developments, but they are things that had been happening and had happened long ago, and there's been work on. Cybersecurity issues are not issues that you can tackle just in a certain short period. You need to do a lot of collaboration and follow-ups and investigation to come to conclusion on them. So, right. like you like to put it, there've been intensified clamp down currently that has been ongoing, because some of the investigation that we've been following up on have come to a point where they need to be arrested in that respect.
And for not wanting to get into investigative activities, because that will be away from the public, there's a concern as to what all of this could mean for us as a country with these high numbers. We're looking in excess of $140 million in terms of persons who are within the U.S. and are going through the process, some already sentenced and what have you. Where do we stand in all of this over the concerns of a possible blacklist or something?
I think that the concerns that people have raised in terms of whether the country will be blacklisted may be genuine, but importantly, what I think we should focus attention on is about the fact that there's been collaboration between our country and our international law enforcement agencies in eventually bringing finality to some of these issues. And that in itself is showing that our country's readiness to collaborate, to work with our partners in tackling cybercrime. So whilst there's a concern about whether the rising numbers could raise attention and cause for a blacklisting of our country in certain areas or by certain countries. It is also important that we point out to the progress of work that has been ongoing in terms of collaboration that has brought attention and arrest to these issues. I mean, these issues did not happen just within this year or in the last month. There are issues that have come up long ago that these our partners have been working with us to tackle. Like I mentioned to you, some had come as far back as 4 or 5 years ago that discussions and investigation has been ongoing on. So yes, there's a concern in terms of how some of our citizens or Ghanaians are being identified or picked up in relation to these matters and investigation and ongoing. But it's also important to note that if our country is not collaborating and then working together with these international organizations, we wouldn't have been where we are in terms of some of the arrests and development that had come to the fore.
Criticism, however, is coming to you, and not just you, the Cybersecurity Authority, but other security agencies, the FIC and others that look. These monies come through, are funneled through, and get into the country. If we're a bit proactive, we could have clamped down on a lot more individuals and made it a very expensive venture for persons who are engaged in cyber-related activities. How do you respond to criticism and questioning in that light?
Cybercrime, particularly when it borders on financial crime, is a very complex and elaborate scheme that is carried out by the perpetrators. So whilst I think that we welcome the concerns and the criticisms that we must work to tighten up our financial system and more importantly the security of transactions that comes through our institutions, the banks, and the role of the cybersecurity and other state agencies. It is important to also pay attention to the kind of elaborate schemes that goes into some of these transactions that comes into our country, and sometimes these things are flagged, but there are discussions that goes on in terms of those who are involved and the back and forth to be able to find out if indeed some of these monies are actually a process of cybercrime and all that. You have to take some time to come to that conclusion. But yes, we think that there's a need for all stakeholders to continue to engage to see how best we can work to close the gaps that leave rooms for some of these challenges. So the criticisms are welcome, but then it's also important to point out that tackling cybercrime is not a straight jacket kind of issue. You need to be able to work with all stakeholders in arriving at certain conclusions.
Right, Benjamin, I'm sure we will have an opportunity to have another conversation, but I appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on the Bulletin.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's Benjamin Avonyoche, is the Communications Director of the Cybersecurity Authority. But who are these individuals? Just a brief fact for you in terms of the last 2 years, the scale we're talking about in terms of the allegations, a vast majority, a number of them as well, not proven. But let's just walk you through what the numbers are, and they're on your screens right now. And so in terms of what we've seen over the last 2 years, right? Just the last 2 years ago, just the last 2 years alone, I beg your pardon, $140 million in total alleged fraud across that is linked to the country. There are 16 individuals, and 9 of them have already pleaded guilty, and some of them are currently facing, are in detention or have been sentenced as we speak. What more do we know about a number of these as well? To the development in terms of the total number of years cumulatively, we're talking 50 years for the Ghanaians who are currently serving time in the US. And last year we began to see a number of them being extradited and what have you. And just by way of a recap in terms of what it is that we know. So there's the Abubakar Network related case, which is just coming through, and a host of others in excess of $100 million. Then we know of the member of parliament who a court warrant was issued for his arrest over some $32 million alleged fraudulent expenditure, which is all undergoing investigations. We know has not been charged just as yet. $32 million. Then there's Abu Trika, who is currently in our courts and is going through the processes for extradition, $8 million. Then there's a name that is quite familiar, Hajia For Real, who has actually served time and has returned to the jurisdiction, who we understand $2 million in terms of funds went through her account, and that's one. She was convicted and sentenced. She pleaded guilty in February of 2024, was sentenced on June 28, spent 1 year and a day in prison, and had 3 years supervised release, and was to pay restitution of $1.39 million and a forfeiture of $216,000. And per what we gather from her case, 40 victims defrauded in all between 2013 and 2019. She was subsequently released in May, and she served her sentence. Then there is Caught&Xp0sè, who is also in detention as we speak. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. Has been sentenced to 108 months in prison, after which 3 years supervised release, and then to pay $3.32 million in restitution, and he's currently serving his sentence as we speak. And all of these were made available yesterday in that Department of Justice release detailing Ghanaians who are currently standing trial, or some have been sentenced in relation to cybercrime related activities from here in Ghana, and are currently either undergoing prosecution in the US or serving time. I'll just take you through the last name as we have it right now, and that's Caught&Xp0sè, who is 35, in Columbus, Ohio. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, sentenced as well to 108 months in prison, 3 years supervised release, and is to pay $1.44 million in restitution. And so just by way of details as well for you, I'm sure there'll be a bit more if you go on to 3news.com as well. You catch details of it in terms of all of what we know as well. Portia Joe, 28, as well, conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, sentenced to 51 months in prison. Also will have 3 years of supervised release, is to pay $2.04 million in restitution as well. And the list is long. There's Nancy Addo, conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, sentenced to 71 months in prison, 3 years supervised release, and is to pay $1.08 million in restitution. But we can bring you some other stories, and I'm sure this will continue to get a lot of people talking as the days go on.
Indeed. Now, the Minister for Health, Caught&Xp0sè, has paid an unannounced visit to two health facilities, Medina Polyclinic and Mother and Child Hospital, to assess conditions on the ground. The inspections focus on compliance with the ministry's directives on the wearing of name tags and appropriate work attire, as well as the state of equipment and the quality of healthcare delivered to patients. Nura Mohammed has more.
Thursday, May 14, 2026, the Minister for Health, Caught&Xp0sè, together with a team from the Ministry of Health, paid surprise visits to the Medina Polyclinic and the Mother and Child Hospital, following growing public concerns about the quality of healthcare delivery at the facilities. At the Medina Polyclinic, the minister was received by staff who took him round the facility as he inspected the functionality of the CCTV systems, as well as staff uniforms and name tags.
Whether you are a student or a permanent worker, it is important to wear a name tag as a health professional. Some of them were beautifully identified, others no, and so we have encouraged them to do so anytime they are coming to work. I also wanted to see, because again we've directed that every health facility in this country must be covered by a CCTV camera, and so we wanted to see, yes, they have some around, I've seen the cameras around.
After a long day of visiting several health facilities across Accra, the Health Minister, Kwabena Akando, has made a final stop to the Mother and Child Hospital here in Kaswa. And he is here to ensure that this health facility is in strict compliance with all the directives they had given earlier this year to health facilities across the country, and to also ensure that the patients are well taken care of. At the Mother and Child Hospital, the minister toured the maternity ward, theatre and surgical ward to hear at first hand from doctors and nurses about the challenges confronting the facility. He also interacted with patients receiving treatment at the hospital.
Sunday nusu misade mi banu ba han mo nyame adom ya no operation aso o ahode enti nyame ahode na misira ma doctor fo ni nurse fo nyina se enkura kro mo no mo fa enjiji yesu se yala
okay abusua we ne ensema ekoso ewo political highway ne so eye chairman Wontumi and the witness out the copy more court no ya che no se atro enkwana odia enye asam keto akra beda mase samoje pene kokoti za ensem wi edema aha gossip politics TV so beda mase